Welcome to First. I'm Nichelle Poston along with Shirley Min and Mark Eichman. The landmark Brown versus Board of Education has had an influence over race and education. 60 years after the Supreme Court ruling, we look at the Delaware impact.
Matt Haley has made an impact on the Delaware restaurant scene. He's done it with his cooking and his philanthropy. And now a prestigious award is coming his way.
And the folks running the Lewis terminal of the Cape May Lewis Ferry have found a way to coexist with some not-of-this-world spirits. They've even turned it into a tourist attraction. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
Next month marks the 60th anniversary of the landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Brown versus Board of Education. The ruling also included 2 Delaware lawsuits. African-American parents hope to force integration. In this week's First Look, a Dover woman recalls how her education was changed as part of that first racially integrated class, and how those lessons stayed with her through life.
As the research has shown, Delaware was the most successful state in the nation with integration.
Sharita Matthews remembers as if it was yesterday, being interviewed to attend a desegregated Dover High School in 1954, not long after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down school segregation.
It's amazing, mind-boggling. You have to pinch yourself. You don't realize at a time like that you were actually making history. And as time has gone on and the big to-do about the Brown versus Board of Education legislation, you realize what a big piece of the history that you've made, especially in the state of Delaware.
Born to 2 educators, William J. Laws and Dr. Ruth Mitchell Laws, Sharita, an only child, graduated high school at the tender age of 15. She learned to read so young that she started the 1st grade before she was 5 years old. Sharita was so advanced in the 2nd grade, she was even promoted to the 3rd grade early.
I give my parents all the honor and glory, and of course the Lord, but my parents were strong role models for me.
In neighboring towns like Milford, the idea of integration caused a great deal of unrest. But in Dover, there seemed to be more support. There were 17 young African-American students who enrolled in Dover High School in 1954. Not all of them finished. Some left for various reasons. Others did not realize the importance of breaking down barriers. But for Sharita, leaving was not an option because it was a given that she was going to be educated, and having that goal in mind made it easier for her.
Once I graduated, I went to college. I went to Oberlin College initially, wound up at Hampton University, where my parents had been, mainly because I wanted a major in speech pathology, and Oberlin did not have that major. From that point on, I married an Air Force pilot, went to France, where my son was born. So he now has French nationality. Came back to Dover, my hometown. I thought that was just wonderful.
Also, Sharita eventually landed a job at Capital School District, becoming the first speech pathologist in the state. She wore many hats and also spent some time with the Department of Education. Further north of Dover, a great example today of diversity is an integrated Hanby Elementary School in Wilmington. Principal Veronica Wilkie reflects on the impact of Brown versus Board of Education.
I think that it has really enhanced people learning because you just learn so much more about cultures and, the world is diverse. And our children need to be able to experience that diversity in every setting. And where do they spend the most time? But in schools.
Though schools are integrated by law, there is still one concern within the education system, especially among African American and white students.
Achievement gap is definitely too large. Not huge, but we still want to make it so that all children have equal access. They're all in the school, but they don't all have the same resources.
Lack of resources are attributed to the differences within today's schools and neighborhoods. And while the Brown versus Board of Education court ruling allowed the opportunity to provide equal access to education, Sharita describes a few other challenges.
I'd say generally the challenges are adequate role models, finances, more opportunities to mingle with people of all ages and stages. In this day and time, we see so many people who want to affiliate only with their age group, but there's so much to be learned and gained. And in this world, in the real situation, we're working with people of all ages, stages, backgrounds, and environment. So those kinds of opportunities need to be made.
It was those kinds of opportunities that helped Sharita during a time when integration was new within the school system, allowing her not to only bond with the African American students that made that journey with her, but white students as well.
I walked away with many friends from Dover High School who are still in the neighborhood or in some place in the state. And although we don't see each other all the time, when we do see each other, we're just like sisters and brothers.
Besides being one of the first black students to enter and graduate from Dover High School, education has always been a part of Sharita's lifestyle. She's done some consulting for charter schools in speech pathology, and she now serves as president of L&M Educational Resources.
And Nichelle, in your story, you mentioned 2 Delaware lawsuits. What were they?
The cases were Beulah versus Gebhardt and also Belton versus Gebhardt. The 2 cases involved African-American parents, a group of African-American parents, rather, who were just so upset that their children had to bypass white schools to get to run down black schools. In fact, the Delaware cases were the only ones included in Brown versus Board of Education that ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. However, those rulings did not strike down Delaware's segregation law.
There was some unrest in Milford after the ruling. Tell me about that.
Well, we know that students were enrolled in school in Dover, but in Milford, 11 students tried to enroll in Milford High School, but because of the unrest, they withdrew from school. And so you can imagine it took some time to get things together there.
All right, Nichelle, great job. Thank you so much. There will undoubtedly be more stories on the 60th anniversary of the impact of the Brown versus Board of Education ruling. Follow our coverage on newsworks.org/Delaware.
Coming up on First, we head into the classroom of the Teacher of the Year. Lee Wainwright shows how a love for French can be translated into a love for her students. And artists love painting scenes of nature. First Experience shows what happens when nature is art.
The winner of many Best Chef Awards, Matt Haley has created a culinary empire in southern Delaware. Haley owns 7 restaurants, all in Delaware beach towns, a catering business, even a vineyard in Tuscany. And while Haley is passionate about the restaurant industry, he's even more passionate about helping people. On a cold winter day, restaurateur Matt Haley took a walk with me in Rehoboth Beach, one of many beach towns where Haley owns a restaurant. February was a great month for the 53-year-old, whose good deeds earned him the culinary triple crown of humanitarian honors.
I kind of like the word hat trick.
First came the Humanitarian of the Year award from the revered James Beard Foundation, and then humanitarian awards from the National Restaurant Association and the International Association of Culinary Professionals followed weeks later for his volunteer work locally and particularly in Nepal.
Nepal is become a place where I'm very invested in and involved in, but more spiritually and emotionally.
8 years ago, Haley didn't even know where Nepal was, but his love for the South Asian country began when he was asked to be a guest chef at an event in Atlanta.
Across the room, I saw a picture of this little girl, and something happened. You know, she was beautiful, but you could tell she was afraid. You could see the fear in the picture, and I connected with it.
Her name, Leela, and she needed a sponsor for school and room and board. Minutes later, Haley found out she had a sister, Lakshmi, and sponsored both of them. The 3 wrote letters and video chatted for a year and a half when Haley says he woke up in a panic one night.
I had this innate sense that I had to go to Nepal to meet these girls.
He was in Nepal 5 days later.
And I was standing there and I had my bag, you know, and I had my coat and my jeans and my boots on, and I was tired. It took 38 hours to get there, and I felt a little tap. On my back. And I turned around and there were these two little girls with eyes this big just staring up at me, smiling. And I just fell to the ground, man, and I wrapped my arms around them, and you know, it was the most emotional moment in my entire life. And right then and there, I felt like I had a purpose.
Later, Haley helped the girls locate a third sibling, Jyoti, who'd since become like daughters to him, traveling the 10,000 plus miles to visit them several times a year. Establishing the Global Delaware Fund in 2011, Haley built a school, expanded an orphanage, and is providing culinary scholarships for handicapped women, all in Nepal.
Just because I've been a good business guy and can cook well and do nice things for people around the world doesn't automatically relieve me from my past.
A past that includes addiction and drug dealing.
I remember sitting, you know, in a dark corner of a room in my little apartment condo, getting high and begging God to kill me. Begged God to kill me, and he sent me a SWAT team.
Haley served time and was later moved to a rehabilitation facility where he started cooking through a reentry program. One restaurant job led to another, and Haley eventually opened his first restaurant, Blue Coast, in 2001. The beginning of a culinary journey for Haley, who was in Puerto Rico when the James Beard Foundation called to deliver the good news.
I was working on a food truck in Rincon, you know, cutting vegetables and doing dishes, exactly where I was 20-some years ago.
A full circle moment for the chef who brings new meaning to working your way up from the bottom. For Haley, it was more like rock bottom.
I am proof that, without a doubt, I am living proof that you can be anything you want to be, you can have anything you want to have, and the only person that can stop you is you.
Haley was awarded the IACP Humanitarian Award last month. This month, the National Restaurant Association will present him with their Humanitarian Award, and the James Beard Foundation's Humanitarian Award will be given next month at Lincoln Center in New York City.
Rob Turno is coming out of his winter hibernation, as the rest of us are in a big way. He's here this week with his editorial cartoon on newsworks.org. Rob, thanks for joining us.
No sweat.
So this tune, obviously, jumping off of the News Journal report on the number of state workers making six figures and beyond. Take us through the cartoon.
Yeah, so I want to make a distinction between those state workers who make smaller amounts of money and those who make, six figures, because there's sometimes a disparity and people lump the two together, which is one of the reasons why I'm so against these people making so much money, because, people are unfairly tarred and feathered. With the cartoon, it's really about overtime, mismanagement of resources, and, a large dependence on educational staff, not teachers, stuff that's outside of the classroom that's really bumping up some of these salaries.
And one thing you point out, Governor Markell kind of falls in somewhere in the middle of this list. There's a ton of people making more money than he does.
I believe there's 87 state employees that are making more than Governor Markell, led by Orlando George. Del Tech, he's retiring this year, has $400,000 plus. It's a problem, and we have such bureaucracy in our school districts. Maybe some consolidation is in order, because that's money that's not going into things like classrooms and teachers, and where you really want to be spending that money.
Seems like one of those issues, though, that it will be very difficult to address.
Yeah, I mean, because there are some people that want to work the overtime. In some cases, it might make sense to have some overtime and not pay employees, but in cases like hospitals and police, do you really want cops averaging 30 hours in overtime in a stressful situation? I just think that's dangerous.
And switching gears to the sports world, with the start of the Phillies season, a rough home opener earlier this week, and you have definitely interest in Papelbon and his abilities or lack thereof.
Yeah, I mean, he's sort of a declining star. He makes it worse by being such an egotistical and annoying presence. His fastball is declining. If he can hang on this year, they still have him for next year. and we'll see what happens with him.
It's a big if. He is Rob Tourneau. Rob is a busy guy, but never too busy for you to read him on newsworks.org/Delaware. You can follow him on Twitter @RobTourneau.
Nature and art, they just seem to go together. And what better place to view such art than the Delaware Museum of Natural History? Nature's Bounty is a collaboration between the museum and the Delaware College of Art and Design. First Experience shows you the work and the students behind it.
We had done a DCAD exhibit back in 2011, and we were contacted by them to do another collaborative exhibit based on student artwork. The goal of these exhibits is to focus on the students and kind of highlight the intersection between nature and art, and that was the basis for the exhibit, and I think it turned out better than we could have ever expected.
I did 2 pieces. There are 2 nature-inspired art, which was like the theme of the show. One of them, it's like a landscape, but it's like only clouds. So it's sort of abstract depending on how you look at it. And the other one is like a sea piece, like a seascape.
When I'm making art, it's always praise for nature. It brings a lot of peace and happiness to me. I think when it's important to come and see art because it gives you different perspectives. You look at paintings and you have never thought of that scenario in that way, the way that the artist has depicted it.
We're always trying to challenge our visitors and to expose them to new experiences, and this is a way to do that. A lot of these works are either abstract or encourage the visitor to think about art and nature in a new way. This exhibit takes those objects and really shows them off as art.
Nature inspires me because I think it's the structure of everything, really. It's what everything's created out of. So it's kind of impossible not to draw inspiration from nature itself.
We're hoping that people walk away and go out into nature and look at it from a different perspective and really focus on the intricate details that can be found in nature and that this exhibit highlights, I think.
You can see the exhibit now through April 20th at the Delaware Museum of Natural History. There are so many other great things there as well. You can get more information on the museum when you go online to delmnh.org. You should also check out what the Delaware College of Art and Design has to offer by going to their website, dcad.edu.
The best way to watch First online is at WHYY.org/First. Past shows are there right now. This show is available on Monday. Our e-newsletter lets you know what's coming up for next week. Check them out. We have a special first person this week. We're going inside the classroom of the 2014 Teacher of the Year. Lee Wainwright is a French teacher at Appoquinimink High School in Middletown. She shares a common bond with other winners of this award over the years. She has a love for teaching, and her students adore her.
Well, we were all in Dover Downs in front of about 600 people, and I was absolutely shocked. I really was shocked. I don't think any one of the 19 of us sat there thinking, well, I've got this, it's in the bag. I'm sure nobody thought that, because we all respect each other so much. Vous avez besoin de feutre? Feutre? They really impressed upon us that we're not just speaking about our students in the classroom, we're an advocate for the teaching profession in general. And that was an eye-opening moment for me when I said, it's not about Lee Wainwright at all. It's about what can I do to help forward our education system and to really be the best advocate I can for teachers and our students. I decided to make a video, and I put out a big survey to all the staff in the district and said, what makes a great teacher? And I got back about 86 different things, 86 different adjectives to describe what a great teacher is. But at the top of the charts was compassion, knowledge, management, class management, organizational systems, but passion was a huge one. Passion and dedication to the students and your content area. That's what I think it takes. You've got to really enjoy it, and that becomes evident in your passion and how you handle your classroom.
I think she won the Teacher of the Year because she's very interactive and she loves to involve her students in everything. She loves to do games, and she kind of goes into the perspective of the student themselves.
The way she's dynamic and she involves all of her students is probably the greatest way she impacts my learning in French.
So all through that process, I'm thinking, this is really such an honor, but are you sure there's not somebody else that is doing more powerful things than I am in my classroom? And I'm sure there is. They only get to select one. It certainly could have been any number of thousands of other people. Why me? Maybe what is that I really try to drive home the ideas of French is just French. But if you use it to solve problems, then it's important. I just heard a quote recently, there is no learning without joy. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. And it can't be that the kids are having fun and I'm not. It's got to be a give and take. Because I think teachers get so much of their energy from their students that's why I keep going, because I'm energized every day.
I definitely think that she's the most involved with her students. She definitely takes a lot of time to think about her lesson plans and plan everything out, and it definitely shows. Class is a lot of fun, and you learn a lot.
By the end of the day, you're tired. Then you do lesson plans, and then you do the grading and things like that. But it's that energy that goes on in the class period that keeps you going and coming back the next day and the next year and the next year. I have no intentions of quitting, retiring anytime soon. So I guess that explains why. It's the energy and the positive reinforcement from my students.
She impacted me because she helped me speak French better. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want to take French because it's a nice language to learn and it's so beautiful. But I'm basically learning it because I feel that it's really nice to have a language to know other than English. And she's impacted me by helping me speak better and more fluently, and so I can talk to more people from Europe.
It's just amazing. It's really hard to understand how hard teachers work and how much they impact students' lives. So I really hope I can be the best representative for them, or at least do my best. Maybe I'm not the best representative, but I'm doing Lee Wainwright's best to do it my way. So I hope that comes across.
The National Teacher of the Year has already been selected, and even though Lee didn't win, she will be heading to the White House in a couple of weeks to meet President Obama. She'll be joined by the other state teacher winners. This story was produced as part of an intern project by Rachel DeRose-Feinberg. She's been our intern this semester. She did a great job. She graduates in May, and we wish her the best of luck.
This June marks the 50th anniversary of the Cape May Lewis Ferry. There will be lots of stories marking milestones along the way. One of those stories will be the transition the ferry has made to a more tourism-based organization. On the Lewis side, one of those nods to tourism takes on the supernatural. Operations on the Cape May Lewis Ferry start on the New Jersey side, and they start well before the sun is up. Engineers are down below deck level, making sure everything is operational for the many trips during the ferry's day.
Yes, Captain, this is Travis. Are you ready for the controls? Okay.
By the time the ferry gets into Lewis, a nice routine is developed. Travelers just waiting for the next ferry before continuing on their journey. As the sun sets, the work inside the Lewis terminal comes to an end, and the place is locked up tight.
The front door is locked.
Or is it?
I was here late at night helping my sister clean, and she says, Patsy, there's been some unusual things going on around here. So I had experienced myself when I was helping her where a dryer was going off by itself in the men's bathroom.
Whatever it is that likes to play around the bathrooms also likes to go through the kitchen, knocking over pots and pans, leaving a mess for the morning crew. Stories like that were enough to capture the attention of some Delaware ghost hunters.
The past is just the future with the lights on.
Delmarva Historic Haunts is the name of his group. When he moved to the area, it was this sign that caught his attention: Sailors Lost at Sea, and buried on the grounds of what is now the Lewis Terminal for the ferry.
I started questioning the staff. They didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to see if there was any ghost stories. And man, I got all kinds of ghost stories, more than I ever thought I would ever have.
Those questions led to permission from the ferry to test for the supernatural, and this was the end result.
It's white, it moves like this, which I've seen before, but it's usually black or gray. I've never seen anything white like that. It glowed, it turned into different shapes, and then went into a ball and went that way.
This is the room during the daytime. It was added on a few years ago. Eventually, it will be permanently added to the building. Whether that has an impact on the light, the fact of the matter is, many believe it was something unique.
We've never gotten anything like that on film before. Usually 98% of our evidence is sounds. Very rarely you get anything on film.
Nobody will say what this was, but no matter. Ferry operations have now turned it into a tourist attraction.
So a few times a year we actually have what we call a paranormal event.
60 people join in a few times a year. Delmarva Historic Haunts will take people around the terminal to listen to the sounds and just maybe catch an image.
Of course, that's just one more thing, one more reason to have a buzz about the ferry. I mean, this is interesting. You know, we're part of the history of Lewis, and we're considered the second most haunted place in the state of Delaware.
Do you know which haunted site comes in at number 1? That would be Fort Delaware, the most haunted place in the state. Plenty of Civil War era spooks hanging around. The next ghost weekend won't be until September. There are a lot of ferry activities taking place as the 50th anniversary of the ferry approaches, and you'll be hearing about them here on First and WHYY.
Next week, as we approach the Easter weekend, we have a special first treat for you. We will share some of our best first experiences. We'll travel from Longwood Gardens to the Mispillion River and everywhere in between. The three of us are going out of the studio to bring you those pieces, and we look forward to that.
And before we go, we have another thing we want to show you. The sign on the top of the new Westin Hotel is up in Wilmington. The hotel has been under construction for several months next to the Chase Center. The hotel is scheduled to open on Monday, April 28th with a 3 p.m. ribbon cutting ceremony. Has been a tough winter for many of these guys working on the construction, but in the last couple of weeks, the concrete was poured, the shrubs have been planted, and it looks like things are finally coming together.
And it doesn't seem all that long ago that, Mark, you were doing the hard hat tour inside the building. It was a good look for you. Nice to see it, though, in the home stretch towards completion. That is First, though, for this week. We thank you for watching. For Nichelle Polston and Mark Eichman, I'm Shirley Min. Enjoy your week, and look for us on the Experience Road next time.